Chapter 1. The Public Betrayal. The night was supposed to be hers. Every whispered promise, every late hour spent building what she thought was a shared dream, led to this moment. Isabella stood in the glow of success, her heart steady with pride, waiting for her name to be called. For years, she believed Ethan was her partner in every sense, her lover, her anchor, the one who lifted her higher. Tonight, he was supposed to honor her. Tonight, they were supposed to win together. But instead, Ethan stepped forward under the blinding lights, his voice cutting through the crowd like a blade. "She built her career on deception," he announced, his words sharp, deliberate, and merciless. "What you see is nothing more than fraud." The air thickened instantly. Gasps rippled through the audience. Cameras tilted, microphones angled, and whispers erupted like wildfire. Isabella's chest tightened, her breath catching as the ground beneath her seemed to vanish. For a heartbeat, she thought she had misheard. But then she saw Ethan looking right at her, his expression cool, detached, as if she were no one at all. A stunned silence pressed against her ears, followed by the deafening roar of speculation. Every eye turned toward her, every flash of the cameras like a blow against her dignity. She staggered back, the betrayal slicing deeper than any wound she had ever imagined. It wasn't just the accusation, it was the way he said it, calm and calculated, as if destroying her was the plan all along. And then, the final strike. Ethan's hand rested lightly, almost casually, on Sophia's arm, her younger sister's arm. The touch was intimate, possessive, cruel in its simplicity. For Isabella, the room spun. The betrayal wasn't just professional, it was personal. It was family. It was everything she had ever trusted turned against her in one shattering instant. Her pulse raced, but anger began to burn beneath the shock. He had humiliated her, crushed her in front of the world, and replaced her with the person she least expected. Her voice trembled, low and bitter. "How could you do this?" Ethan's smile didn't falter. He leaned just enough for only she could hear. "Because you were never strong enough to stand beside me." The words scorched her, as if her years of sacrifice meant nothing. Rage surged through her veins. She turned sharply, refusing to let them see her tears, refusing to give him the satisfaction of watching her break. She left the stage, each step fueled by fury, her heels echoing like war drums against the marble floor. Behind her, applause erupted, but it wasn't for her. It was for him. Ethan had stolen her stage, her moment, her legacy. Alone in the corridor, her breath came hard, her chest rising with rage and disbelief. She replayed the moment again and again. His betrayal, her sister's silent complicity, the venom of his words. Her hands trembled, but not with fear, with rage. He thought he had ended her, but he had only unleashed something darker. She whispered to herself, steadying her voice. "If he wants war, I'll give him war." The door behind her creaked, and she spun, expecting another whispering crowd. Instead, Ethan walked in, calm, collected, the man she once loved now unrecognizable. He moved closer, his presence suffocating. "You think you can fight me? You're already finished." Her glare cut through him. "You destroyed everything I built. Everything we built." "No," he replied, voice smooth, venomous. "I freed myself from your shadow, and I'll make sure the world never forgets who brought you down." Her hand lashed out before she could stop it, the slap echoing in the quiet room. His head turned with the blow, but his eyes stayed locked on hers, cold and unyielding. "You have no idea who you're really fighting against," he murmured. For the first time, Isabella felt a chill deeper than anger. His words weren't a threat, they were a promise. Her fury flared, but beneath it, a haunting truth stirred. Ethan was no longer just her betrayer. He had become her enemy, and she would need every ounce of strength to face what was coming. The night ended not with triumph, but with ruin. Isabella had entered the gala as a rising star. She left it as a woman stripped bare, betrayed by love, family, and ambition. Yet in her chest, where heartbreak smoldered, revenge began to take shape, burning hotter with every breath she took. And as the cameras outside screamed her downfall to the world, she vowed silently that Ethan would regret underestimating her. He had turned her trust to ashes, but from those ashes, she would rise. Chapter 2. Secrets beneath the surface. The headlines the next morning were merciless. Isabella's name splashed across every paper, every screen, her reputation dissected like prey before wolves. Fraud. Liar. Disgraced. Words she never imagined would be tied to her now carved themselves into her identity. Ethan had taken everything, and Sophia's silent betrayal made the wound fester even deeper. But Isabella refused to vanish quietly. Behind closed doors, her fury sharpened into focus. She needed to know why Ethan had done this and how deep the betrayal ran. She started with Sophia. Her sister flinched the moment Isabella appeared at her apartment. The guilt was written across her face, her trembling hands betraying every secret she had tried to bury. "You let him destroy me," Isabella said, her voice low, sharp as glass. Sophia's lips quivered. "I didn't mean for it to happen like this." "Then how did it happen?" Isabella demanded, her eyes burning. "How does my own sister end up at his side while I'm left in ruins?" Sophia broke, tears streaking down her cheeks. Her confession spilled out like poison. She had fallen for Ethan months ago, blinded by his charm, his promises, his dangerous allure. But beneath the shame, a darker truth emerged. "I'm carrying his child," she whispered. The words detonated in Isabella's chest. For a moment she couldn't breathe. Her sister, her lover, her family and her future entwined in a grotesque betrayal. Her voice cracked, raw with disbelief. "You destroyed me for him. You gave him everything I had. And now this?" Sophia's sobs grew, but Isabella's tears never came. The grief inside her had hardened into something else: steel, rage, determination. She left her sister shaking in the silence, her mind already racing. If Ethan and Sophia thought they had ended her, they were wrong. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning of war. But as she dug deeper, she uncovered another name lurking in the shadows. Marcus, Ethan's longtime partner, a man whose influence spread further than she had ever realized. Documents hidden in the archives revealed Marcus had been maneuvering for years, pulling strings behind Ethan's betrayal. He had convinced Ethan that Isabella was a liability, that she was standing in the way of their empire. Ethan had chosen greed, but Marcus was the one who had set the stage. The betrayal now had layers, a web of deceit stretching far beyond a broken heart. Isabella wasn't just up against Ethan and Sophia. She was up against a machine built on lies, manipulation, and power. Her anger boiled hotter. If Marcus wanted her erased, she would carve her name back into the world in fire. But even as she plotted, the nights tormented her. Memories of Ethan, the way he once held her, the way he once whispered promises of forever, still lingered like ghosts. Love and hatred collided in her veins until she could no longer tell which burned hotter. And then, as if summoned by her torment, Ethan appeared. He cornered her in her office, his presence heavy, his eyes smoldering with something between fury and longing. "You're digging where you shouldn't," he said. "Stop now, before you lose what little you have left." Isabella rose to her full height, her glare sharp enough to wound. "You've already taken everything. What more could you possibly steal from me?" His jaw tightened. "Your life, Isabella. Don't make me choose that path." Her chest ached with rage. "You ruined me because Marcus whispered lies in your ear. And now my sister carries your child? You disgust me." But Ethan didn't strike back. He stepped closer, his voice lowering, his eyes dark and conflicted. "You think this is just Marcus? You think I don't make my own choices? I betrayed you because I had to. Because loving you made me weak." The words cut deeper than any knife. Isabella's voice shook, not from fear, but from the storm building inside her. "No, Ethan. Loving me made you human, and you hated yourself for it." The tension between them vibrated like a live wire. Anger flared, but beneath it, something unspoken simmered, an attraction they both refused to acknowledge yet couldn't escape. His hand brushed the edge of her desk as he leaned closer, his breath warm, his presence suffocating. For a fleeting moment, she hated herself for noticing, for wanting, for remembering what it felt like when his lips claimed hers, when his arms promised safety that now only brought ruin. She turned her face away, clinging to her fury. But Ethan's voice lingered, raw, dangerous. "You can't fight me, Isabella. Not when you still want me." Her heart pounded violently against her ribs, a war between desire and fury tearing her apart. She wanted to scream, to strike him, to erase every trace of the man she once loved. But she also wanted to feel his mouth against hers, to remember even for a second what it felt like to belong. And then the sound of the door unlocking snapped them both back to reality. Sophia stepped into the office, her eyes widening as she saw Ethan standing so close, his gaze locked on Isabella. For a heartbeat, no one spoke. The silence was suffocating. Then Sophia's face twisted, her voice sharp with betrayal of her own. "What is this? After everything after me, you're still chasing her?" Isabella froze, caught between fury and despair. Ethan didn't move, his expression unreadable, his silence louder than any denial. Sophia's voice rose, trembling with rage. "If you think I'll let her take you back, you're wrong. I won't let her destroy what we have left." Her words cut through the room, sealing the fracture that had already torn their family apart. Isabella's breath shook as the reality settled. Her war wasn't just against Ethan and Marcus. It was against her own sister, now driven by jealousy, fear, and the child she carried. The walls of betrayal were closing in, tighter, darker, suffocating. And for the first time, Isabella realized she might not just lose her career or her family. She might lose everything, including her soul, in the fire that was coming. Chapter 3. The Price of Revenge. Sophia's sudden appearance in Isabella's office had left more than shattered glass and cruel words. It had left a wound that refused to close. Her sister wasn't just carrying Ethan's child, she had declared war. But Sophia wasn't the only enemy lurking in the shadows. Marcus had been pulling strings for months, playing Ethan, manipulating Sophia, cornering Isabella. She knew exposing him would be the only way to survive. Yet striking at Marcus meant striking at Ethan too, and the part of her heart that still ached for him made that decision a knife, twisting in her chest. There was no more time to hesitate. Isabella began moving her pieces. Anonymous leaks to the press, selective documents slipped into the right hands, whispers planted where they would grow into headlines. In days, Ethan's once untouchable reputation was cracked. Investors pulled back, reporters circled, and suspicion spread like wildfire. That night, her door shook with Ethan's furious knock. He didn't wait for an invitation. He shoved his way inside, eyes blazing. "You think this will end well for you?" His voice trembled with barely contained rage. "You think turning the world against me will save you?" Her pulse hammered, but she stood her ground. "It's not the world turning against you, Ethan. It's the truth catching up." He slammed his hand against the wall beside her, so close she could feel the heat of his anger. "You're playing with fire, Isabella." She swallowed the tremor in her chest and spat back the words she had been holding for too long. "I already burned when you betrayed me." For a moment, he faltered. The fury in his eyes dimmed, revealing something else: regret, longing, a trace of the man she once loved. He reached for her arm, not cruelly, but desperately, as though holding her could anchor him to what they used to be. "Stop this," he whispered harshly. "Stop before it destroys you." Her throat tightened, her voice breaking even as she forced the words out. "You already destroyed me. There's nothing left to lose." The silence between them was electric, charged with pain and desire. Their eyes locked, neither willing to look away. Then, like a storm breaking, Ethan crushed his lips against hers. It was not tender. It was a war fierce, desperate, reckless. She shoved against his chest, resisting, but the years of love and memory betrayed her. For a heartbeat, she let herself fall, her body remembering what her heart longed to forget. But clarity cut through like glass. She tore herself away, her chest heaving, tears burning her eyes. "I hate you," she whispered, though the tremor in her voice betrayed the war inside her. Before he could answer, a new voice slithered through the room. "Well," Marcus drawled from the doorway. "Isn't this a fascinating scene?" Isabella froze. She hadn't even heard the door open. Marcus strolled in as though he owned the place, his smile sharp, his eyes cutting between them. Ethan's jaw clenched. "What are you doing here?" Marcus ignored the question, his gaze lingering on Isabella with unsettling interest. "I came to remind you of the plan, Ethan, but it seems you're losing focus." His words dripped with venom, but it was his eyes that chilled Isabella the way they studied her, calculating, predatory. "She's not part of this," Ethan snapped, stepping forward. Marcus's smile widened. "Not part of this?" She's the reason we're in this mess. She's the reason our empire is crumbling. And if you don't deal with her, I will." The words slashed through Isabella's chest. She could see it in Marcus's expression. This wasn't a threat. It was a promise. Ethan's voice was low, almost a growl. "You don't touch her." Marcus tilted his head, amused. "Protecting her, are you? That's rich, considering she's dismantling everything you've built. Maybe I should ask, are you her shield, or is she your weakness?" Ethan stiffened, his fists clenched at his sides. For the first time, Isabella saw him truly torn, trapped between the life Marcus had lured him into and the woman he had once loved enough to ruin. Marcus's hand slipped inside his coat. When it emerged, it held the gleam of cold steel, a gun. Isabella's breath caught, the world narrowing to the weapon pointed in her direction. "You can't be serious," Ethan hissed. "I'm very serious," Marcus replied smoothly. She's had her chance to back down. Instead, she made herself the enemy. And enemies don't walk away. Ethan moved instinctively, stepping in front of Isabella, his body blocking her from Marcus's aim. "You'll have to go through me first." Marcus chuckled darkly, the sound hollow and chilling. "Don't tempt me. You've been a disappointment lately. Maybe it's time I cleaned house." Isabella's heart pounded so hard it hurt. She had known Marcus was dangerous, but this was a line she hadn't imagined he would cross so openly. The room felt smaller, the air heavier, as the gun gleamed under the dim light. Marcus's voice softened, deadly calm. "Decide, Ethan. Is she worth everything? Or will you step aside and let me end this?" The silence stretched. Isabella could feel Ethan's tension, his breath shallow, his fists clenched. His silence was unbearable. Did he hesitate because he still loved her, or because Marcus's empire meant more? Her stomach twisted, bile rising in her throat. She wanted to scream, to beg Ethan to choose her, to prove that she wasn't a fool for still feeling anything at all. But her voice caught, trapped in the storm of fear. Marcus's finger shifted on the trigger. Enough waiting. He raised the gun higher, the barrel now aligned with Isabella's head. Her knees nearly buckled, but she forced herself to meet his gaze. If this was how it ended, betrayed by love, betrayed by blood, she would not die cowering. The moment stretched into eternity, silence pressing like a weight. And then, in a single breathless second, Marcus's finger pulled back. The shot exploded through the room. Chapter 4. Ashes of Trust. The shot rang out, deafening, slicing through the silence. Isabella's body froze as her ears rang, her chest heaving, unsure if she had been struck. A second passed, then another. Slowly, she realized the bullet hadn't hit her. Ethan staggered back, his face twisted in pain. His hand clutched his side where blood was already seeping between his fingers. He had moved at the last second, placing himself in the path of Marcus's bullet. "No!" Isabella's voice cracked, raw and strangled, as Ethan dropped to his knees. Marcus didn't flinch. He lowered the gun, eyes gleaming with cruel satisfaction. "Pathetic. Throwing yourself in front of her? You always were weak when it came to her." Isabella fell beside Ethan, her hands trembling as she tried to press against his wound, her vision blurring with tears. "Stay with me. Please, just stay with me." Ethan's breath was ragged, his eyes locked on hers with an intensity that burned through the haze of blood and pain. "I had to protect you," he whispered, his lips barely forming the words. Marcus took a step closer, the barrel still hot in his hand. "Touching. Truly. But it changes nothing. She's next." Isabella whipped around, rage replacing terror. "If you come near me again, Marcus, I swear." "You swear what?" Marcus sneered. "You have no power. Everything you built is ashes. Your reputation ruined. Your family against you. All that's left is the pity people will whisper about when they read your obituary." Ethan coughed, blood on his lips, his voice hoarse. "Don't touch her." For the first time, Marcus's confidence wavered, just slightly, as Ethan tried to push himself up despite the wound tearing him apart. Isabella's heart twisted because even in betrayal, even after everything, Ethan was fighting for her. But Marcus recovered quickly, lifting the gun again. "Enough. Let's end this farce." Before he could fire, Isabella lunged forward, her hands gripping the broken glass from the earlier outburst. With a cry torn from the depths of her soul, she slashed across Marcus's arm. He roared in pain, the gun clattering to the floor. The three of them scrambled in chaos, blood, glass, and rage. Isabella kicked the weapon away, her chest heaving as Marcus turned on her, his face twisted in fury. "You think you can destroy me?" he spat. "You'll regret this." But Ethan, his strength failing, grabbed Marcus by the leg, yanking him off balance. For a brief second, the predator faltered. Isabella seized the moment, pushing Marcus back with everything left in her. He stumbled, colliding with the edge of the desk, the sound of impact sharp and final. He collapsed, groaning, stunned but not gone. His eyes burned into Isabella's. "This isn't over," he rasped. "You'll never be free." Isabella's chest rose and fell with fury, but she knew Marcus was right. Even if he was dragged away in chains, his poison would linger. Her focus snapped back to Ethan. He was pale, too pale, his breath shallow. She dropped beside him, her hands trembling violently as she tried to keep pressure on the wound. "Don't you dare leave me now," she choked out. "Not like this, not after everything." His eyes fluttered, but he forced them open, staring at her with a desperate intensity. "I never stopped loving you. Not for a second. I was weak. I let Marcus twist everything. But you," his voice broke, "you were always the only thing real." Her tears spilled freely, falling onto his skin. "Then why? Why betray me?" "Because I was afraid," he admitted, his voice a rasp. "Afraid of losing you. Afraid of not being enough. And in that fear, I became everything you should have hated. I ruined us." Isabella shook her head, her heart fracturing all over again. "You didn't have to. You just had to trust me." His hand lifted weakly, brushing her cheek, smearing her skin with blood. "I'm sorry for everything. If I could give you my life, I would." "You already are," she whispered through sobs. His hand slipped, falling limply against her. The world seemed to tilt, sound dimming, her own cries echoing like they belonged to someone else. "Ethan!" she screamed, shaking him, begging for a breath, a heartbeat, anything. But his eyes had closed, his chest no longer rising. Her body shook violently, grief tearing through her like fire. The man who betrayed her, the man who broke her, had still chosen in the end to shield her with his life. The irony was unbearable, a cruel twist of fate that left her hollow. Marcus groaned, dragging himself upright against the desk, his arms still bleeding. His lips curled into a weak, twisted smile. "So tragic," he mocked. "Dying in your arms. A hero. You'll cling to that, won't you? But you're still alone, Isabella. Alone and ruined." Her eyes snapped to him, blazing with a fury so sharp it felt like it could slice him open. She rose slowly, her entire frame trembling, but her gaze steady. "You're wrong," she said, her voice raw but resolute. "I'm not ruined. You are. And I'll make sure the world sees you for what you are." Marcus sneered, but there was a flicker of unease in his eyes. Isabella didn't need to fight him anymore. His empire was already cracking, the truth already seeping into the light. Ethan's sacrifice had given her the strength to finish what she started. She turned her back on Marcus, her hands stained with Ethan's blood, her heart shattered beyond repair. The world outside would keep turning. The headlines would scream of betrayal and downfall, but none of it mattered. Because she had lost the man who had once been her everything. The man who destroyed her, and yet in his final act, had saved her. Her footsteps echoed in the silence as she walked away, leaving Marcus to his broken empire and Ethan to his final rest. Ashes of trust, that was all that remained. And from those ashes, she would rise. Alone, scarred, but unbroken. The story ended not with love reclaimed, but with love lost, leaving a silence that cut deeper than any betrayal ever had. To summarize this story, Isabella trusted the one she loved most, only to have her world shattered by betrayal, deceit, and hidden secrets. As family, love, and ambition collided, every choice carried a price, pushing her into a dangerous game of revenge and survival. Loyalties were tested, hearts were broken, and sacrifices were made. In the end, love was lost. Justice came at a cost, and from the ashes of trust, only Isabella's strength remained scarred, unbroken, and unforgettable. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe my channel for more dramatic, intense romances. Your support means a lot to me. Thank you for watching. I can't wait to share the next story with you.